Welcome to the show, and so we're going to get started with our news. So the first news I wanted to talk about was Krita has a new release, and you guys know that I kind of push Krita because I think it's actually an awesome program and it's free, and I mean it's pretty darn good in terms of comparing it to Photoshop. So if you guys are interested in doing painting backgrounds or character designs and sketches and things like that, Krita can do all that. And so the latest release actually kills a lot of bugs. I think it says here that there's more than 50 bug fixes. So they're always committed to fixing problems, updating things, adding new features, and like I say, it's free. Which now you can get it at krita.org, and we have used it on the show. In fact, our Bad Apples project, I designed all the characters using Krita, using their paint program, and I didn't really have any problems with it when I used it. I think the only problem I had was I had a really old Wacom tablet, and sometimes the tablet wouldn't work with it. But anyway, so check it out if you guys are interested. And let's see here. So the next thing was something that's kind of exciting. In terms of stop motion, possibly, but I don't know for sure. So the reason I say that is that they're coming out with this new Red Hydrogen One graphics phone camera, essentially, and what makes it different than any other phone is that we've got stereo cameras on both the front and back of the camera. And so what that means is there's actually two cameras side by side. So there's a front facing and a rear facing. Now the front facing, I guess, would be the one that faces you, and it appears that the cameras, so that says they're 8.3 megapixels, and they seem very small. The lenses seem tiny, just like you would expect on a phone, but there's something kind of cool about that. On the back of the camera, there's also two lenses, and they're kind of in a vertical orientation. So if I guess the camera has to be held sideways to take pictures with stereo. But what makes this interesting is that the distance between the camera on the front side is very similar to the distance you would want when making a stop motion film. And that is to say that the way that they calculate it, for example, trying to think of just Box Trolls or Coraline or any of those films where they've done 3D, is the ocular distance, and that is the distance between both your pupils. Okay, they try to match the ocular distance with the distance between the pupils of the puppets, and what that does is it makes the three-dimensional feeling of the scene similar to what it would be if you were that actual puppet in the scene, and all the 3D effect itself is very similar to if you were in the scene, so to speak, because you have been shrunk down, essentially, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of confusing and it's a little bit hard to describe how that works, but anyway, these cameras are going to be extremely expensive, I understand. I think it's like $1,500 or something crazy like that. But what's kind of interesting is if the Red camera phone is successful, other companies might follow. And they're kind of talking about this technology having a holographic quality to it. And what that means is that you'll be able to take your picture, and then as you tilt the camera side to side, you'll be able to see around, sort of to a certain degree, to the left and right of your picture of whatever you've taken. So like if you take a picture of a puppet and you move the camera and you kind of move it back and forth, you can see around it a little bit. Now I don't think that that's going to be a very extreme amount of motion or movement side to side that you'll, like for example, if you're looking at a puppet, you can move your head like 4 inches to the left or 4 inches to the right, and you can see everything in perspective and everything works. But with this, since the lenses are so close, you can obviously not do that very far. So I know we've talked about VR technology and what Google's doing and how they're able to do a similar thing, but this is a completely new technology altogether, and there's a lot of questions as to how effective it will be, and what the the actual look of the motion will be, and if it can be animated is another story. But anyway, it is kind of interesting, and opens up some possible doors in the future. So for us animators. So anyways, moving forward, so I've got this other thing that I found, and I plan to post this as a news piece on our site, or possibly just posting it to Facebook. It's a film called If I Was God, and this is actually a film that came out in 2016, which I had never seen before. And it's about this little kid who he's in class, and he wants to impress this girl. And what he does is he kind of imagines that he is a god, and she will fall in love with him. And his godly powers, as you can see here, are he ends up shocking a frog and burning it. And I don't want to give the whole story away or any spoilers, but it's really, really funny and super well done. In fact, there's a lot of these sort of transitory scenes where they go on the chalkboard and they animate characters on the chalkboard to kind of break the scene up, or to break the film up into sort of different styles and looks. And it is just really good the way it's done. It doesn't become boring at any point. It holds your interest, and the story's kind of cute. It's like a bunch of little kids that are starting to have feelings for each other. So I'm going to probably post that maybe tonight or tomorrow. And again, this is called If I Was God, and it's the screening room from the New Yorker, if you want to check it out yourself. So the next thing I want to talk about is I did post a news piece here. So my friend Webster Colcord, he sent in a video where he gave a talk at the Comic-Con in Santa Clara City, and they did it in the library. So he has this like a small table set up, and what he does, let me see if I can play maybe a little bit of it. So he has some puppets that he brought with him. He's got this giant armature. I don't know if this is a Tom Brierton armature, or I'm pretty sure this might be. I could be wrong, but he's got the worm from James and the Giant Peach, and a puppet from, I think this is from Meet the Raisins, one of the scenes. And he kind of goes over his history at Wolverton Studios, working in stop motion as well as Giant Peach Productions, and I think forget where else. I think like Robot Chicken, and he worked on some Lipton Brisk iced tea commercials, which you guys might remember from a few years back. They had one with Ozzy Osbourne and a few other very famous rappers, and so he kind of goes over the whole thing, and it's really fun to watch. It's about 40 minutes long, and you can see it on our news page currently. So check that out if you have the time. So then another piece of news. Now Dan Gorosito is here in the chat, and Dan has some free time lately, and he's been helping out on the site quite a lot. In fact, he's been translating some of our more popular articles into Spanish. So let's just click on any of these here. So here's one on set construction. So believe it or not, in English, this is a very popular article for whatever reason. A lot of people want to know, how to build sets, the basics and everything. So this, of course, you can see has been skillfully translated. I am not very good with Spanish, and so I can't do this. And so Dan just, he offered. He said, "Hey, maybe we can just do some translating." And so he's got about 6 articles so far under his belt that he's translated. This one here is on digital cameras and capture cards, and all the different ways to capture your animation, as well as motion blur. And this is an older article, and I probably should have, like in the future, I might have an update to this, because this is many years old. However, a lot of the older technology is a lot easier to find in other countries that are not, for example, poorer countries, and some Spanish countries, and overseas as well, where a lot of the technology trickles down and takes time to arrive. Well, yeah, I appreciate that, Dan. I mean, you don't owe me anything, of course, but it's really great that you're helping out. So also, if you guys might have noticed, we did add Dan and he goes by Metal Mad Cat on our site as a member, and so he's basically, I've given him the title of Spanish translation Metal Mad Cat, but Dan did take the time to write a new article, which is actually something that is really, for some people it's controversial, and that is to say that a lot of the newer technologies, for example, like I just talked about the red camera and possibly using that for 3D, exploring what it can do and kind of being excited about new technology, including like what I brought up a few weeks ago with VR. Some people, they don't like virtual reality because they think it's mostly a CG thing, but as a filmmaker, you don't have to just work with CG. You can actually work with puppets with the right camera equipment, which actually I've talked about the Q-Cam, which is a $400 or so consumer camera that you can shoot 180-degree getting tongue-tied, virtual reality film footage. So the technology is just emerging, and it's really exciting. And so Dan actually wrote this article in English to describe, looking at things in a new way. And so I think that will really touch a lot of people and strike a nerve in the industry a little bit, because there is a kind of disconnect with the older generation of animators who are kind of weary of this technology and maybe kind of feel that things should stay a certain way or should be a certain way. And that's really, in my opinion, is the wrong way to look at stop motion. And I also agree with Dan that we can utilize newer technologies and incorporate those technologies with handcrafted stop motion arts, and even including computer graphics or 3D printing. All this stuff is just a way to tell the story, and that's the important part. And if you can make a film using new technology that actually draws people in even further into what you are visualizing, then I think that we should definitely consider it as a new way to explore storytelling. So that's just my my particular feeling. And yes, Dan is mentioning Smodo, which is something that again, some people think Smodo, which is what it is an armature which has little balls on the ends of the arms and the legs, and when you move it around, all those motions translate into animating a CG character. So, some people are okay with that, some are not. But that is something that I do believe, yes, you mentioned in the article. So, do check it out. Now for tonight, I'm going to open up some files, which I've prepared for our show. This is part of our Bad Apples project. So as I'm doing this, we can sort of discuss whatever you guys want. So how many of you guys out there have seen Smodo? Have you guys seen it before? I mean, I know obviously Dan has, but so some are saying that Smodo, which is essentially like, it's not the same thing as the Jurassic Park dinosaur input device. If you guys recall that Phil Tippett had, I guess it was Tom St. Amand, he and Phil got together and came up with this idea where they could take like servo motors, what are we doing here? That's the middle one, and rig up their, I could have sworn I had more files here. I've only got one. Are those arms? Let me see something here. I think I have more than that. Couldn't have had just one. I have two. Alright. Not sure which one it is, but let's do this. Sorry, it's hard for me to walk and chew gum at the same time, so I'm gonna do this. Make sure that it's not the same. Okay, it is different. Very good. I just lost the chat there. All right. This is what happens when I use Photoshop. Things fall apart. Okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I need. So Dan is saying, ever since I heard of what they are working on, it's extremely new. Mixed 3D and stop motion all integrated. And Penn is asking, is Smoto available? And I believe it has several iterations. And I think they've come up with like a new version of it, which is what they've been promoting out there. But that's something that I'm not sure what the cost is and where you can buy that right now. I mean, I'm sure Dan probably knows. He's probably seen it. Wasn't it like a Kickstarter at first, Dan? I think it was like a Kickstarter. And it didn't go far. Let's see here, magic wand. There we go. Make sure this looks good first. Hey Harley, welcome. So Dan, with regards to scanning every piece, if you're not quite sure what you mean there, if you're referring to the dinosaur input device, which was similar to Smoto, which Phil Tippett came up with, it is different. It was not really a scan. It was like measuring, for example, if you would move like an arm on a T-Rex model, they would measure the distance that the servo moved at that joint, and then it would translate into motion inside the computer. So it was a little bit, it wasn't like scanning with I think they're using web cameras with Smoto. It wasn't quite like that. Which the web camera option is a bit better actually. Oops. I'm drawing there. I want to erase. Let's do this. Hey Hoserlu. So Dan says I think it is not out on the market just yet. There is just a trailer over the web. And Dan says they're trying to get some funds first. Yeah, unfortunately you can't paste links inside the chat. That's just part of the way YouTube is, unfortunately. YouTube is being kind of silly like that. I'm going to exit this so I can see my colors properly. Quit Discord also, make things a little bit faster. Kind of got this green fringe thing going on here on my models, which I don't care for. I think I might try to see if I can get rid of that. Let me check here what I can do. Oh, this has to be cleaned up also. I need to use a smaller one as well. Let's go with 13. Oh, okay. So Dan is saying, I said interesting what you show right now. It looks like the parts of your puppet are pictures scanned, but never mind. I didn't mean to say scanned, but pictures then taking the first up. Yep, that's pretty much it. And you know, when I didn't have a good camera, the first time I did this, a similar kind of thing with cutouts, I actually did use a scanner. So it's kind of funny you say that, because you can scan stuff if you really want to. You can literally use a scanner, but you just gotta face your puppets towards, you know, obviously the top of the puppet facing down towards the scanner itself. Yep, some of my first first animation done this way was that, using that, and what else did I use? I think I used Stop Motion Pro to import the scanned files, you know. That was for the old claymation groups in Yahoo. Was it Yahoo? The Yahoo groups? And that was so many years ago. And unfortunately, I can't remember his name already because it's been so many years, but the owner of that had said, why don't we do some animation for our webpage? And it had a website set up just to like promote it and everything. That was really old school. That was before we even had really any kind of proper message boards or anything in those days. All Yahoo groups. Just gonna kind of clean up the bottom of these things here. Not sure how that's gonna look later, but so when I import this into the other program, it might look strange, might not. I'm hoping it's not. So Dan says, I just never worked the way you are showing us. I always would take pictures and then and get the background of my actual set with no previous editing, but it's cool to see how it works. So Dan, I guess if you haven't watched some of our previous episodes, so I'm going to be using the program called Moho, and the way it works now, I will have to do some editing of this later, where once I clean up all these individual parts, what I'll do is I'll be overlaying these in a layer system where I take, you know, the different bodies, and in Photoshop you make layers, and in Moho you can hide and show different layers as part of your animation of your character. So I can have this particular character, there's some squash and stretch going on here, so I can sort of hide this. See if I can make my cursor bigger or something here. So anyway, like this body up here, I can hide and then show this one while this is hidden, and sort of do like a replacement animation that way. So that's going to be what we do, and I've got to also import all of the replacement faces onto this character, and there's quite a bunch of them. So that will be sort of like one character, so to speak, that you can manipulate, and I'm hoping it won't be so complicated that it'll become confusing to animate, but from some tutorials I've watched, it actually seems very doable, and somewhat of an experiment to do it this way. My feeling is that since you can incorporate motion blur, and you know, it does most of the in-between animations by sliding things around, you'll get a much more smoother animation with motion blur, and you know, it's a lot harder to make mistakes, which means it's like a time-saving feature as well. And if I were going to do professional, you know, animation for somebody in this kind of style, I would prefer to do it that way rather than the traditional way, which is all by hand. But normally I would want to do this by hand just for my personal preferences, because that's the way I've always done it. But you know, I'm just trying something out and trying to learn, you know, trying to learn how to use the new programs. Again, this goes back to what we were kind of talking about, where, you know, either you embrace the technology and you try to use it and utilize it for your storytelling, or you kind of shy away and look at it kind of as a, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but, you know, an evil of some sort, taking away from the process or something. Well, yeah, you know, Krita, I used Krita for the drawing designs, the character designs. So I drew all these characters in there using, you know, Wacom tablet and stuff. And but Moho is what I'll be importing these into now that they're going to be turned into layers in Photoshop. So the layered Photoshop file becomes the actual kind of puppet, so to speak. Now, I noticed that on here there's some perspective. I can see like this is there's a thickness here. And so when I layer these up with the body, I may need to make sure that this edge is not seen. Now, I'm not going to erase it because I'm afraid that if I erase this here like this, that when these two line up, this actually gives me a little bit of leeway in terms of adjusting this body which goes on top. So you can see here, these are actually the lower body, and these will be like a walk cycle. So she'll kind of, let me zoom out. So she'll kind of like do this little squashy, stretchy motion as she walks left to right. And yeah, hopefully it will look nice. So we did do some test animation, if you recall. We used Heron stop motion. I don't know if you've heard of that, Dan. It's a free animation program. It's very buggy, but you can do your tests with it. You know, you can just use a webcam, or you can use your DSLR, as long as you have a certain. There's another program you got to use to get that to work properly. But anyways, yeah, that's all stuff we worked out over many live shows already. It's been quite a learning process, because everything is, there's so many possible ways to do stop motion now. And no, I mean, I know, like, so I run the stop motion store, and I sell, you know, the really good expensive software like Dragon Frame and Stop Motion Pro and, you know, iKit Movie. So we've got all that, but a lot of people don't have the ability to afford that, and so I try just to, you know, show different ways to do it which aren't as expensive. So I'm going to save this as Bad Apples, and then I think I had it in Moho. Let me see here. No. So photos large. PSD animation files. We're going to go with Mother 1, body. Save that one. So that one's cleaned up already. So now next time I can go in, when we, like I say, once we clean all these up, I'm going to cut all these out and put them into one layered file. But I don't want to do that right now. So this probably won't require anything to clean up here. This is pretty nice. Looks good. Save as. Go with arms. Arms 1. So as you can see, the background is removable, right? So I can just, you know, I can slide that into another document. I can manipulate these. And if you're wondering why there's different arms, it's because of the way that the light bounces off of them. So I've got these in this orientation, so that when they're animated in that orientation, I can swap them out and use these just for that particular lighting scenario. So that's arms 1. That's fine. And then this one will be arms 2. Oops. That looks good. So, wait a second, is that right? Oh no, I don't need to do that. That's the same as the other one. Okay, so I did have that file opened already. There's some weird thing going on here, which I'm going to erase. There we go. Arms 2. And the third one, the third arms, are actually part of the first graphic. So let's see here. Yeah, Tamara. So yep, this is one technique. Using all clay is, you know, that's, some people like to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Let me See here, I'm going to actually cut all these out first, because I don't need all that extra stuff on the edges. So Dan says, oh nice, similar to the free software of Helium Frog or Monkey Jam back in the days when these were my choices. Did they still exist? Well, Monkey Jam does. Helium Frog I have on the site, and I even have Anasazi, but those are kind of old and they probably won't work. You know, it's kind of a 50-50 chance they'll work for you. So the Heron, Heron animation software is comparable to those, you know. It does the same thing, but it's a little bit, it's actually a little bit more robust than what Helium Frog was, if I recall. And clear this out. It's a little bit more robust, and it will work with like Windows 10 and stuff, you know, all the newer, because Helium Frog I think was for Windows 7 was the latest version it would work on, or maybe ME, Windows ME. So yeah, that's really old already. Wow, okay, so this is gonna be faces. So basically this first mother character is done. Like everything is nice and clean. I do see one problem here. It looks like we've got a stray pixel on her lip. So let me clean that up. Hey Randy, welcome back to the show. That's not very nice. I think I'm gonna like, what am I gonna do here? Let's go with this. Gotta hide this a little bit. That's probably not too bad. Can't really tell that that was a stray pixel. I think there's any more. Now there is something strange there, which I'm going to get rid of. Erase it. Let's see now. That's pretty good. Oh, there's another stray pixel right there. Get rid of this one. There we go. Okay, Heron is what is used to capture animation with your web camera. So that's a free program. And Moho is used to do the animation and using Photoshop files. And 2D as well. So you can draw and do animation with it. Yeah, it can be confusing. But if you Google Heron animation, you'll find you will find the stop motion one, the one that's supposed to be for stop motion. But you can use it for paper drawn animation if you wanted to, still animation. But it's mainly for stop motion. And then the Moho is from Smith Micro Software. It's a completely different company. Okay, so I think there's one more stray pixel right there. Let me get that one. So these are all artifacts from my camera. So if you guys want to avoid this particular problem, there are settings you can use on your DSLR that kind of get rid of stray pixels. There's a reduced noise option in a lot of cameras that there's like onboard software on Canon and Nikon DSLRs, and that will sometimes get rid of those stray pixels. Trying to think, but then also if you take if you use a very fast shutter speed, that sometimes cuts down on pixels. I think I did like maybe a 6-second. I think one picture was the shutter was open for 6 seconds on these. I'm thinking, but anyway, the longer your shutter is opened, the more stray pixels you get. That's just a strange thing. And also, I believe the ISO, if your ISO is set low, let's say like 100 versus 1600 or something, you know, you'll actually get less noise as well. So there's a few tricks, but you know, I was kind of going more for how well the image quality looked when I did my test for this, and I wasn't really worried about those pixels because I was going to clean them up like I just did now. So I think we're good. Oh, I see another one. Where is it? Where did I see it? It was here. There it is. Get that one. Yep, 2 different programs. Yeah, Ken, and also Mr. Force is, I guess he's not on here. He goes by O Whiskey. He's using in the chat. He's also using Moho, and he's offered to kind of help me, like if I need help. And I mean, I'm sure Ken would also, if he wants to. Of course, he could answer my questions if I haven't. But right now, I haven't used it, and it's gonna be a few more weeks of working in here before I get around to using that program. So I'm gonna be using Photoshop for a while longer, maybe 2-3 weeks, 2-3 more live shows, because this does go pretty quick once you get into it. And so we finished up one more character, and I'm probably gonna finish these clouds tonight also. Now these here are not actually technically clouds, so I guess they're kind of like dirt clouds. And what I'm going to use these for is certain scenes where we're going to have the villagers. They all kind of get together, and they're going to take their tools, and they're going to have them in their hands, and they're going to go around in sort of a militaristic way, in a very angry militaristic way. They're going to all storm off and go to this one place and build the wall and everything, and it's kind of hard to describe, but these are going to be like a little bit of a spinning cycle of clouds where just their arms and things will be sticking out. I'm always at a loss for words when I'm working on this stuff. Like I said, I can't really think about what I'm doing here and talk at the same time a lot of times. But anyways, so I am just copying and pasting these into new documents, because off on the left side there is some wood that you can see there, and it's kind of hard to remove that. So all right, paste that. All right, let me see what you're typing about. So Hosrelu says we probably ought to have a section on the website that talks about software. We could, sure. I mean, that kind of brings up what I was talking to Dan about privately, and it's like I'm just kind of wanting to give the site to everybody and not make it something that just I work on and update, and like I feel almost like the website, even though you guys do post a lot of stuff in the network, I feel like I'm the main contributor to everything, and it's kind of I think all of you guys have a lot of great ideas, like having a software section would be great, but I just don't have the time to do it all on my own. So if anybody here wants to write articles or anything, or make contributions, I will not object to that. So feel free to if you want to send it to me, like make an article, yeah, I'll post it. Just make sure it's well written, do the best you can, and we'll add it. So I'm going to use the wand tool here. And so Dan says, cool guys, this info is pretty useful. It is a perfect update for me after so long away from the production process. Yeah. And it is hard to keep up. I mean, I have friends who work in Blender and in Unity, which is a game engine for you can basically download it for free. I could have sworn there was something here. See something. Can't find it now. And they try to make these, you know, avatars for VR chat, because I use VR chat quite a bit now. And need to make a folder here as well. But they kind of they're telling me what they're doing inside there and how they do it, and it's really interesting. But at the same time, there's so many programs, it's hard to learn all that stuff. And to really know a program inside out, you know, like usually for me, I have to use a program every day for years before I can really understand it all. I'm kind of a slow learner lately. So this is going to be clouds. And I'm going to put this in PSD animation files. So I'm going to call this clouds 1. Same with this one. See, there is this. That's what I saw before. I couldn't find it. I see some stuff under here as well. Alright, so this is not going to really work. Let's try and change the tolerance to 40. Oops. I'm going to have to erase that by hand later. It was so tiny. Let's see. It's like teeny tiny stray pixels. Again, these are those pixels that my camera creates from long exposures. It's become kind of annoying. Like this one and that one. Yeah, Randy. Hopefully people will enter this latest challenge, you know, if they have the time. I really think Thanksgiving would be a really fun one to work on because it's really humorous. You know, all the possibilities. Everybody has that one crazy family member. Or even, you know, just think about what could be done with cranberry sauce and a little kid or something. You know, a lot of possibilities for a comedy. And Anavatas says, I used to draw a character with lots of arms like a Hindu god, and frame by frame you delete the progression. Well, I haven't done it in a while, but layers offer some kind of alternative for frames. Yeah, you know, the Moho program would allow you to do that, and it's a lot simpler. And what I mean by that, you know, is if you just make like 2 arms, a right and a left arm, you could copy and paste those over and over again. You wouldn't have to make a character with, you know, or draw it with so many arms. Copying and pasting is much easier. If that was your goal. Again, you know, some people might frown upon that, but it just depends on what the application of what you're doing is. Alright, oop, trying to get that one. There we go, straight pixel. This one here. I could probably get some of these by changing the tolerance, but it was eating into the clouds themselves, which I didn't really like, so there we go. That's true, Randy. Only 3 more weeks left for the deadline. And actually, I appreciate you reminding everybody because I didn't remember to mention that last time. Okay, wow. So I'm gonna get all these clouds done already too. Oops. Wasn't sure how much I would get done tonight, but it's pretty much 2 more sets of clouds and the mother character will be done. I'll have to see what we should do next after this. Another stray pixel. Just one crazy family member? Well, okay. I didn't want to admit it. Most of my family is crazy, so. Right, so I think this is good. Let's clear this out. All right. Clouds 4. It's going to be interesting to composite all this stuff together and see how it looks. You know, one of the things that I might also need to do with these clouds as I because there's going to be, let's see, there's 3, and I think that was like, how many, 4 cloud sets? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 12 total. So I might need to make some shadows underneath this as well. So when it moves along the ground, you know, there's a shadow. But I'll have to think about how to do that later. That would be a little bit tough, but definitely doable. So now we have what? Let's see here. So the king is done. Wood fences are done. Outside shot with sky. The rock, Mother Grumble. So, I mean, the Grumble was... That's right, because he's the Gumby character. So we didn't do this guy. Let's do him. So Dan is saying once you have every piece in a different file, next you add all individual frames on stop motion software with transparency. Just not sure how the transition goes from this point forward. So once it's cleaned up, it'll be like this. So we'll have this body here. And then we'll have this body here. And I'll make another layer, okay? And I'll paste it on there. So the file size and everything, like, I'm gonna make the image size, I mean, different, because it has to have the legs and it has to have the head and everything. But when you animate it, you'll be able to just remove layers, and so he can turn right and left, just like this in the Moho program. And then you use like keyframe animation, so you can add frames, like let's say 12 frames, and I can have him, you know, turn, and then have, you know, move him around on the screen. Oh, where did my chat go? That's the best way I can describe it. I mean, I can't really go too much into it. We've only got 10 minutes, but if you do a search on YouTube, you'll be able to see, you know, what's involved. I'm just gonna try to do this. Let me see what happens here. This is definitely gonna work. Oh, I forgot that I added this texture to the hat. It came out pretty good. It's pretty exciting to know that I'm going to be animating this guy around on the screen. Kind of excited to learn how it's going to all work out. I'm just hoping, you know, because this is a lot of work to do all this. It's a real gamble here. Yeah, if we're all family, I think I just called some of you crazy. Alright, so I think this is good. Gonna clear it and hope for the best. Oh no, wait a minute. I need to duplicate that layer. Alright, there we go. This will be good. So I'm just gonna leave this the way it is. All these faces here I'm not worried about. All the stuff on the left, because that's gonna be and I've got the other file that has those. If I recall, this particular character, I still need to photograph things like his eyebrows and stuff. There's a couple of things that I forgot to do, which I realized after the fact when I took these photos. Things that the puppets need, which are missing. And that I will probably, let's see, photo, PSD files. I need to make a new folder. Okay, it wants to go there. That's silly. Let me see. So let's call this guy what? Let's call him Smokey, because he has a pipe. Okay. Smokey, what are you doing over here, Smokey? Now let's do this. Smokey has to go in the PSD files here. Okay. That's better. It's going to be the body and pipe. And these are the faces. So again, like I said, I did realize that I didn't have his eyebrows. And he's going to have some of those, because he looks pretty bare without them. But let's go ahead and go through here. Get rid of the stray pixels as best as we can. These things really won't show up anyway, but stray pixels, you don't really need them, so. Oh, hey, a whiskey. So a whiskey is saying it is a switch layer. That's the technical term for it. It's cool. Well, I will be dealing with switch layers, I think, a lot. Switching back and forth between different bodies that are and faces. Clear this now. I think I got all of them. Let me just double check. Yep. There's one small one, but I don't think that matters. I gotta clear everything. Oops. Alright, gotta duplicate first. Duplicate, duplicate. There we go. Now clear. And clear that. And I'm gonna erase this one stray pixel. And also this, which did have some dirt or something here, or a piece of clay. Get rid of that. And I know that I've got a few more stray pixels to take care of here. Let's see. There's one. Let's see, there's like 2 or 3 on this one. There we go. There's a couple here. Time does go pretty fast sometimes when you're doing this stuff. I wish there was more time in the day for me to work on this. I could probably do this and finish this entire project in a week if I could just sit down and spend all my time on it. But real life kind of gets in the way. This one here has got, looks like he has acne or something. I don't know, should I leave that like that or not? I wonder. think I'm going to clean him up just a little bit here. And make a larger brush size. There we go. That is a pixel, straight pixel. This may or may not look good. Let's see. Kind of clean this up just a little bit. Yep, it does, doesn't it? It's like they have pimples. Well, this is what they would do, I guess, in Photoshop, for the most part. At least this is the basic way that I know how to do it. So anyways, I think we're pretty much done here. Let's see what else there is. We got, we do have some straight pixels there. This might be the last guy that we had to really mess with. So I guess I should end the show, you know, just saying again, like if any of you guys have anything you want to do to the web page, consider it yours. You know, I'm not gonna. Oops. You know, if you guys want to contribute something that you think is important in terms of stop motion or even in like set building or making puppets or some new technology you came across, if you want to write about it and have it as part of the site, you know, feel free to like I say, let me know. Yeah, of course, I'm totally fine with that. So kind of make it more of a community as opposed to, like I said before, just kind of you know, me doing everything, when you guys really have a lot of awesome ideas, and you know, I just want to kind of give you guys this side, I guess. So so now Dan says, I definitely like this method and I would like to give it a try one day. Yeah, sure. We will see the results, you know, when it's done, how well it works. I'm hoping that it will look nice. And I may learn from this too. Like I say, I know that Whiskey has mentioned, you know, you can add shadows and all that kind of stuff, and he's even sent me, this isn't Smoky, sent me some test files, you know, that he did some quick tests showing how you can sort of add shadows and stuff, and it is possible. So it may end up looking pretty darn good. Faces. But like I say, time will tell. And you know, there might be people that are more skilled than me, of course, that can explain if there are, you know, tricks to making things look even better. And you never know with updates to the software too. They might update the software and add features which in the future may make this really a viable way of you know, doing clay animation. Absolutely, Dan, we could. It might be a good idea, and in fact, we could make a playlist of all these videos, you know, on how I'm putting it all together, and add that, you know, under the article or part of the article. Definitely. And Enematas is saying, can I do something historical maybe? Yes, sure. If you want to do anything about the history of stop motion, you know, anything like that, I can add it as well. Okay, well anyways, guys, it is time to wrap up the show. It is 9 o'clock, and hopefully you guys enjoyed, you know, hopefully a little bit of seeing the news, what's out there, what's going on with technology and films and things like that, as well as the Bad Apples project, and I will see you all next week. See you later.